My name is Serena Poon, and welcome to my show, Serena Lives. As a celebrity chef, nutritionist, and entrepreneur, I'm incredibly passionate about helping others live their best life through methods I call culinary alchemy, which is a combination of education, integrative nutrition and functional nutrition, and healing and intuitive energy. So, with each episode, I'm going to share with you the inspiring stories of some amazing people, entrepreneurs from all different backgrounds, who overcame challenges in their personal journeys to have the success that they have today. And today, I'm so excited to introduce to you guys my dear friend Gil Antolin, is that right?
Yeah.
Of, wait for it, Luxury World Traveler.
Yes, ma'am.
So it is, if you're not familiar, I'd be surprised if you weren't, but if you're not familiar, it is one of the largest social accounts in travel. And you've created this incredible business, you know, that includes that Luxury World Traveler Prime and media and concierge. And, you know, you just held this massive mastermind conference in Miami.
Yes.
But what I would love for you to dive into is how you got started. You know, like, this is a show about really inspiring people, you know, to pursue their passions and like to know that any point you can. So tell us how you started.
So for me, my journey started probably about 2008. And I know a lot of people, you know, especially like myself too, we're very familiar with movies like The Secret and, you know, reading books like Think and Go Rich. And so I had really bought into that. And at a very young age, I was able to make a lot of money. I was very heavily invested in the real estate and mortgage industry. Rode that way from like 2002 to 2008, built up a large company, had 40 employees, 6,000 you know, square foot office in a glass building. And, you know, everything was going good, owned $1 million house, had cars, boats, jets, skis, the whole lot. And then in August of 2008, my world was like really flipped upside down.
Right.
And that's when the financial crisis hit.
Right.
And people like me that were very heavily invested in real estate, you know, I was in the process of, I used to buy and sell foreclosure homes. So I was in the process of, literally had 5 open escrows where I had deposits on all these different houses.
Wow.
Plus I had another like 5 that I had maybe $250,000 into refurbishing. So I had this like cycle going.
Right.
Plus, you know, I had all these employees where we did mortgage loans and sold houses in a real estate company. And overnight I found out that like basically everything that was my security blanket was taken away from me. And in a period of about 30 days, I ended up losing all of my income and still having all these debts. You know, I had about $60,000, $70,000 in overhead every month.
Right.
On top of the fact that now all these homes that I was going to sell, the mortgage, you know, crash started.
Right.
So the real estate prices bottomed out. So I was upside down in 5 houses, and then I had money in 5 other escrows, and I just very quickly found myself in like the worst financial position that I've ever been in.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's devastating.
It was really tough. It was really, really tough. I hit rock bottom, but.
And that's just the personal side, I mean, the professional side of it, right?
That was the professional side of it. Then that's when, you know, the fallout started. I ended up breaking up with my fiance. I was engaged at the time. So that kind of fell apart. I had to sell all of my prized possessions, the cars, the houses. I ended up losing my dream house, the car that I really, or my dream, my dream house, the house that I really like had always aspired to have, you know, this big 5-bedroom, 4-bath with the pool and jacuzzi and the whole thing. That was the last asset to go. And I had to file bankruptcy just to be able to stay in there. And very quickly I found myself in a position where I had nothing. I was a single dad. It was really even hard to put food on the table, you know? So I went from having like millions of dollars to literally having everything taken away from me.
Wow.
And that's kind of where Luxury World Traveler journey began, because one of my spiritual advisors that I'd worked with very closely for like the last 6 years asked me in the midst of this, probably like around December of 2018, when I was really hitting rock bottom, because you know, the holidays are stressful enough.
Right.
Try being in the holiday season when you're broke and you have an 8-year-old son.
Wow.
Right. I mean, it just was not something that I had ever encountered. And so it was at this time that he asked me to help him arrange a mission trip to Africa.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And so for me, that was kind of, it was a very obscure question at the time, because here I felt like I was in this whole mindset of like poor me and woe is me, and like, you know, the world is against me and everything's being taken from me. And then I'm being asked to fly halfway around the world and like try to help other people.
Right.
So when you're in that position, it just seems like very far-fetched. Doesn't seem like something that would
surreal.
It would be like surreal. Long story short, though, I decided to, okay, I'll do it, even though I knew I couldn't afford to go.
Okay.
I had no idea how I was going to get there. I didn't know how any of the pieces would come together. And it just so happened that my brother-in-law played in the NFL at that time.
Oh, wow.
So I reached out to him and I said, look, I'm organizing this trip to Africa. I'd love you to be a part of it. And then fast forward about the next 60 days, he actually decided to come on.
Wow.
Said that he would not only come with me, but would pay for everyone to go because he had the financial means to. And then word got back to ownership of the New York Jets, which is who he was playing for. It's the Johnson & Johnson family, Woody Johnson. And so they were actually like very, very helpful and they wanted to support it. So before we knew it, I went from like having nothing and thinking this is the craziest idea ever to raising like $250,000. And we were heading to Africa in April of 2008, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts.
That's great. And what was the mission about? What did you guys do there?
We were going there we were raising funds to help build schools in one country and build a children's wing and a hospital in another. So in Uganda, this is the first place we went, we actually, with the people that we went with, had the ability to meet with the first lady of the country at her palace in Uganda, and it was a pretty powerful experience.
Yeah, I bet.
And the money went to her foundation, and they went to build a children's wing in the hospital because their hospitals there were so poor, and like they only had one main wing. There was not like children and then the adults.
It was just everyone.
And so it was causing kind of a bit of a problem, and it was a need. So our first stop was in Uganda. We did that for about 6 days, and we were able to raise enough money and donate it to build a children's wing, which was really, really cool. That was neat. And then after that, we left and went to the poorest country in the world, which is Burundi. It's in Eastern Africa.
Okay.
I think back then, the average family made US like $50 a week.
Wow.
Like that was the average. There wasn't any paved roads in the entire country.
Wow.
Can you imagine?
No.
Like no paved roads.
Wow.
Funny story, while we were there the first night, dumb Americans, we were staying in this hotel and it had a rooftop that had like a patio, and so we were all sitting there. I'm getting ready the next day to go meet the president of the country. We had to drive like 3 hours, and we heard sounds in the background. We're like, oh, someone's shooting off fireworks, right? But the next morning we learned that it wasn't fireworks at all. It was rebels that attacked like the National Armory, and they were shooting like RPGs.
Oh
I mean, this is
gosh.
like the kind of atmosphere that we were in.
Wow.
And it was maybe like 5 city blocks from where we were at.
Wow.
So that was kind of eye-opening.
Shift
Oh,
in
man.
perspective, right?
Like complete.
Like
and total.
houses, cars probably went from so important to who cares at this moment,
Yeah.
while you're changing and saving lives in another country where they're living under gunfire.
And then like the country's had rebels for the last 12 years. They didn't like the presidency, and so this is like a way of life for them. And for us, we take it for granted. We don't, living in LA, we don't have any of that.
No.
Nothing that's even that extreme. So the next day was like, I guess I would say we're a luxury traveler, and the whole idea for it began because we went to an orphanage. Okay, so we visited an orphanage in the poorest country in the world. So here we are, the poorest country, the people with the least amount of resources, and we visited an orphanage. And these kids don't even have parents in that country with the least amount of resources. And so we had went there because we were going to build new schools. They were going to get uniforms, and the money that we gave them was going to go a long way to really improve their situation. And so they were so grateful that they performed this traditional African music performance.
Wow.
So the boys are playing these instruments, some of which you would not be familiar with, like traditional instruments, and then the girls did the dance.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So the boys are playing instruments, the girls are doing the dance, and it was amazing because here are these children in this country with no parents, no resources. They didn't even have a word. There was no word translation for opportunity. Now think about that, right?
Yeah.
Like there wasn't even a word for opportunity. When we sat with these kids and we were talking, there was no direct translation. It was unbelievable to me.
It didn't exist in the world.
It doesn't exist in the world. It's not like a real life or a attainable thing. And so we get in this orphanage, and we told them, you know, like, hey, we're coming here to donate this money. It's going to change your lives. We're going to build schools. And they were so excited, and they were so excited to perform, right?
Wow, yeah.
And so the boys start playing, and then the girls just like erupt into this dance, and they're singing. And like, I just experienced this joy that I'd never even seen before in my life. Just like pure joy, just like exuding from within them. And they were just so happy. And I was so blown away because I thought we went there to like give them something, right? Like, hey, we're coming over, we're gonna provide resources, we're giving you something. But that didn't end up being the case at all. They gave us the biggest gift that I've ever received, and it was just like this overwhelming joy, you know, and doing something for some people that they didn't know anything about,
right?
You know, and just wanting to express their like sincere gratitude and appreciation in the midst of having nothing. And that's the moment for me that my entire paradigm and shift on life came, because here I was, you know, living in LA, thought I had everything, my world was taken away from me, and I was living in this like poverty mind state over here, thinking I have nothing, you know, why is this happening to me, you know, and I quickly realized that like my idea of nothing and the reality of really having nothing were two fundamentally different things, right? Like my idea of nothing in Southern California was way different than what I was experiencing in real life. And so it was that point that I realized I wanted to do two things for the rest of my life. One, I wanted to continue to travel internationally, because I couldn't have had a paradigm shift like that had I stayed in the US, or maybe gone to Europe, you know, or another first world country. I couldn't have had this impactful of an experience that really just like melted my heart, and as a grown man got me to see the world in a different place, right? Because as adults, once you get to a certain age, like the way that you perceive the world is the way that you perceive the world.
Sure. And in a moment, you know, it completely shifted everything for you.
Completely and forever.
Yeah.
And then the second part was, not only do I want to continue to travel, but I wanted to inspire other people to travel so they could have these types of experiences, you know, and create a way to also pay it forward, you know, and help others that you know, couldn't help themselves. You know,
I mean, that's where the core of everything that we do is, right? Is to just help, to know that you're in some way servicing others, which is in an amazing way how you've turned your company into, you're actually servicing and helping other people change their lives, and you're helping other entrepreneurs, which is, it's just incredible.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I mean, I interrupt, but I just
no.
that out, because, you know, you took something that could have just been for profit. You know, you built your following up into the millions. You have all, and yet you use this opportunity and this platform to turn around and teach others and help others.
Correct.
I just think that that's just so like notable, and I respect and admire that so much. You know, so
thank you.
Tell us a little bit about so that happened.
So that happened, and you know, I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm traveling, I'm paying it forward. You know, other than the birth of my son, it was like the single most happy moment I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
You know, because when we were done performing, or when they were done performing, we had like, it was a group of 8 guys that came with us. All 8 of us were literally bawling.
Wow.
I think I hadn't cried since my grandma died, maybe 10 years prior to that. And it wasn't tears of sadness. It was just like, you know, experiencing emotional feelings that like I never even knew had existed in me. You know, to do something for people that can do nothing for you in return. I think is like the ultimate act of selflessness, right? Just to do it because you wanted to do it. So when I returned from that trip, I was forever changed. I came back, and I have to tell you, like the first 30 days in LA were really, really tough, because I came back and I hear people like, oh my God, my cell phone broke, or oh my God, my straightener went out, or oh, I was stuck in traffic for 30 minutes a day, or oh, this meal was horrible. And like, it was really hard to acclimate back. So I was mad at everybody, you know?
How long were you there?
We were there for 2 weeks.
Okay, well that's a good period of time.
It was a good period of time. So we were there for 2 weeks, and I came back, and luxury world travel didn't start from there. So, you know, my journey is that like I referred to it earlier, a lot of people talk about, you know, thoughts become things, and watching The Secret, and really staying in that positive mindset. And, you know, I'd kind of bought into that, but I think there's something that's missing when it's just about that. And I kind of experienced that over time, because Fast forward 3 Christmases after that. Every year we go to my sister's house for Christmas, right? I'm a big Mexican family. We all get together. It's a tradition every year. And so we were there. My nephew, my godson, and my son were all sitting on the couch, and they were on their phones and they were giggling and laughing. And I'm watching this from across the room. I'm like, what are they doing over there?
Yeah.
What's going on? I could see the mischief, right? So I walk over there and I'm like, hey, what are you guys doing? And they're just like, oh, we're on Instagram. And it was like 2011. I'm like, what's Instagram? Right. What is this Instagram that you speak of? Yeah, like nobody knew Instagram then. And they're like, it's pictures and filters. That's all it was. Pictures and filters back then. That's the only reason people used it. And so I said, okay, well, let me see that. And I'm like, oh, you just share pictures and filters with your friends and da-da-da. I'm like, oh, okay. So it's like Facebook. And I'll never forget this. It was the first time in my life I ever felt old. My son has his phone. He's like, da-da-da. He stops mid-type, looks up at me, and he's like, Dad, Facebook's for old people, right? This is 11-year-old. Facebook's for old people, and I just felt like someone hit me across the face, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm 34, and I feel like I'm 80 right now, totally postured me, and I'm like, give me that. So of course, I'm like, give me that phone, let me see this. And that's really where the true luxury world traveler started, because back then on Instagram, there was a popular page. It wasn't just like the search page where it goes forever now. So if you made the popular page, you were one of 9 people. Your picture would stay there for 2.5 hours. So if you made pop page, everybody saw you. Okay. So I grabbed the phone and I'm like, what is this? And just so happens on the popular page was another travel themed account. And I don't think it exists anymore, but it was done very, very well. It's kind of a little bit of the inspiration of why I did mine. And I saw a picture of the Maldives. And in 2011, I had no idea where the Maldives were. I don't think anyone did, really, right? Unless you were a true traveler. 10 years ago, no one knew where the Maldives were. Now everybody knows where it's at. So I saw this picture. It was like of overwater bungalows, and with someone standing on the edge. It was like sunset. And I'm like, what? And as a true travel enthusiast, and I traveled a lot prior to this whole thing happening, I went on the page and I found myself scrolling. And 2 hours later, I had still written down 60 places that I had never heard of that I now wanted to go. It was like the Seychelles and Mauritius and Zanzibar. And I still remember Zakynthos Island in Greece, and all these obscure places to me that just sounded like fairy tale, somewhere in there side of the world. So I'm like, okay, I'm starting a page because I love the platform. And that's kind of where Luxury World Traveler started. I kind of owe it to my kid, because if he hadn't called me old, I probably wouldn't have been so aggressive and wanting to start the page.
Yeah. No, that's a great story. Actually, no, I've never heard you share that story. So I love that you shared it with us today.
Oh, thank you.
No, that's great. And again, it's so real, Your story is so real and so authentic, and I feel like it really can inspire people. They can be in any situation and they can look at you and look at what you've done and created, and you just took that moment and you created your life from that moment, that was a starting point. And getting back to the secret and thoughts to become things, I think prior to that, all my goals and ambitions were kind of came from a very selfish place. From ego, yeah. Right? So after I came back from Africa, I started a vision board, and it sat on my desk, right? And I spent all this time, and I had this vision board, and every day I would look at it, every day I would look on it, and I still have it to this day. I tell people, no joke, I took a picture of it and posted it on my Facebook account. Well, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, no, in 2008. So when people are like, is that a true story? I'm like, go, if you have time, get on my page and scroll back to 2008. Yeah, you'll see the picture, and I tagged all these people in it, and I'm like, this is what I want my life to be. And then so fast forward to 2011, but I think that was coming from a really selfish place, where when I started Luxury World Traveler on Instagram, I didn't, back then, influencer wasn't a term.
Right.
No one even talked about influencer. There was no hotels giving out media stays to people on Instagram because they had a lot of followers. And so I started it from a place of what happened in Africa, right? And I'm like, I think this is a great platform to share my love for travel and maybe inspire other people to have similar experiences to me.
Right.
And so I took it very serious. I had a full-time job at that time. I would spend 6 hours every Sunday night for probably 3 years straight, even through holidays, accumulating and going through and researching and finding all these amazing pictures of all these different destinations.
Wow.
Right? And I still remember I would sit there and I would look at these pictures, and I would find something that like totally blew me away. And I remember I'd stare at it, and then I would like envision myself being at this place.
Yes.
Right? Like I would be like, okay, what would it feel like if I was in this overwater bungalow?
Yes.
Or what would it feel like if I was at this villa in Greece? Or what would it be like if I was in this treehouse in Thailand? And I would do this every Sunday, and I'd get really emotionally charged, and I would prepare. And back then, when I really took it serious, like a year later, when I really started taking it serious, I would post 6 to 8 photos on Instagram a day.
Wow, that's a lot.
I know.
Oh my goodness.
A day, right? And I decided to kind of add some format to it. A lot of these pages that are on there now, just like random pictures, but we've always done like a different destination a week at a time. I did that so I felt like people could really get a feel what it's like to travel there. You know, so like what hotels to stay at, what restaurants to eat at, what are some of the cool monuments maybe to see.
Like you're giving people their destination if they haven't done it yet.
Correct.
Can't do it, you know?
Correct.
Okay.
So I think that's why it like resonated with international people.
Yeah.
And like on those Sundays, I would spend 6 hours either on Google Images or Bing Images, and or reaching out to professional photographers that I found on Instagram, or the hotels, resorts, and I would request, I'd be like, hey, I have this page. I really want to put up the best possible picture. I found this on your site or your website or your Instagram. Can I repost it if I tag you? And like almost everyone always said yes.
Sure.
So it became this thing where everyone associated my page with always having like the best picture, right? And the most high quality. Yeah.
It really does.
And you know, that with the structuring of the 1 week at a time, I think really resonated with people. And you know, we were really lucky to get in early, and it's grown ever since. And like you said, now we're the largest luxury travel page on Instagram. And it's crazy when I even say that, because Instagram's like a thing now, and it wasn't, you know, 6 years ago. So it's been a great journey.
I mean, it's a beautiful journey, you know, and I love every point that you're making to everyone who's able to listen and share in your story, you know, that you took this pivotal moment, you came back, it changed your life. You decided to serve and help others and share your experiences. I mean, it sounds so simple, right?
Yeah.
But not. I mean, you worked so hard, and that's an important point that I think a lot of people need to know, especially when it comes to managing a large social account, being an influencer, using that to leverage, you know, a lifestyle that you want, is that you work extremely hard.
Yeah, it's. A lot of people see the pretty pictures, right? But we have work. I like I said, for the first 3 years, I didn't miss a day.
Yeah.
You know, and let's just say I did 6 photos. That's like almost 1,800 photos, 1,900 in a year to post.
That is a lot.
So a lot of work. Yeah.
I miss things a lot. So
I don't do that anymore because with the algorithm change, all this stuff. But like I've never worked harder at something. But you know what? You know what's funny is that like I didn't consider it work.
Right.
You know, like Instagram became my daily online vision board. Does that make sense?
It's a great way
to put it. I would just see these different destinations over and over and over again. And I just think like having seen that and like envisioning myself in some of these places, it just helped to like really supercharge those thoughts and emotions.
Right.
And like, you know, fast forward the process. And I was manifesting my dream job and I didn't even know it, right?
Yeah, no, you were. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I literally could have you here for hours talking about it, because there's so much more that you're doing as well. But share with everyone where they can find all the different outlets that you're doing. Obviously, we know Luxury World Traveler at Instagram, and also it's Facebook. And do you also have Twitter? Yeah, so on Instagram at Luxury World Traveler. On Facebook, it's just facebook.com/LUXWT. You can also find us online at www.luxwt.com. That's so awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me? I know. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you having me. It really was. Thank you guys for joining us today on Serena Loves TV. We'll be back with you next time.